Assalamu alaikum everyone. A very warm welcome to all of you. My name is Mohsen Nishat and I will be moderating the next segment. These are unprecedented times. You have witnessed in these two videos how organizations, individuals have actually learned the power of uncertainty, how they have learned the power of being together, sympathy, empathy, and synergy, how they have actually leveraged the power of being together and take individuals as well as organizations out of these challenging times which each one of us has been facing, and God knows till what time we will face. But I am accompanied today with our esteemed panelist Fatima from Unilever, Waqas from British American Tobacco or Pakistan Tobacco, and Rizwan Saab from Angro Corp, who are going to share with you their experiences, the way they took out their organizations out of these crises, and some valuable learning to us. So, welcome to all of you. Ji, Assalamu alaikum, everyone. So, a warm welcome to you, and then I will move on to initiate our discussion. I think all of you are set. All three are actually there, and they are loud and clear. Listening to me, you're able to listen to my voice. Great, G. So I would start from Rizwan Saab from Engro. And as we all know that Engro is a conglomerate. It has diverse businesses starting from food, agriculture, chemical, fertilizers, and these are just few and many more to go. So Rizwan Saab, my first question to you would be that these were unprecedented challenging times. It is definitely difficult to handle these times for organizations as well as individuals. So how were you able to, in these times, able to create, crack and engage a very high level of employee engagement and satisfaction? Can you share some of your successes during this journey in this particular regard? Over to you, Rizwan Saab. We're looking forward.
Thanks, Mohsen. I think thank you for this opportunity and uh, inviting me to share my experiences during this whole pandemic and crisis. So I think the way I'll respond is how we reacted to the situation, how we responded, and how we are becoming resilient. Right. So the reaction was quick because as soon as one of our colleagues contracted the disease, so we had to really take action. So in first 48 hours, we had to react to the situation, that how we look at this thing, right? So the first thing was to really send our people back home and really start planning that how and what needs to happen. So I think in that quick 48 hours, we came up with additional protocols at our sites, how to handle employee questions. So all that was done in first 48 hours. We came up with clear communication with our employees as CEO spoke to our people, and then we went into the response stage. So when I say response stage, so I'll divide that into three different buckets, right? So first was if I look now when I'm looking back, so I think how we responded to it, I can really put it into three different buckets. So I think care, courage, and connection. So when I say first thing was care, right? So how we are looking at employee safety, health, and well-being, right? So that was the first reaction from us. All the indication, all the research, all the experiences globally were telling us that it will have health issues for people. So how we address that, right? So that was the first thing which was as part of our response. So we created a help desk for our people. It was 24/7 help. It was one-stop shop for all of our employees. We brought more medical help, so the doctors were available 24/7. We knew testing will become an issue in the country, so we arranged testing facility with the labs in Pakistan, in all over Pakistan. Then we knew that once colleagues get exposed, so the families will become vulnerable as well, right? So how we'll address that? So that was part of our initial response and communication to the employees. Then medical facilities. So we have sites where we have medical facilities available, quarantine facilities. So we invested immediately in those areas to really ensure that employee health and safety is paramount. It'll become paramount, right? And then we came up with detailed SOPs for our sites because I think when we, in first 48 hours, we realized that our businesses are essential to the economy. We are in food security, we are in power, we are in providing gas to the country and raw materials for essential industries, connectivity vertical. So all these things were beyond commercial reasons for us to stay operative. So that was very important for us while we responded to this whole thing. So in the care element, I think once we got into it, so mental health became one of the key topics for us. So how we address, because people had health and safety issues, people working from home, so they were vulnerable to multiple things. So we signed up with consultants, we created sessions, there's individual help available for people. Then I think the next bucket was courage, right? So we had to take some courageous decisions. We announced that there'll be no layoffs for people. We had to invest additional to build capacity or to build facilities, so we invested. And I think the other courageous decision was to really stay connected with the employees on a regular basis, right? So the third thing was real-time connection with the employees. So we were open in communication. CEO went ahead, he spoke. Then leadership were doing their virtual town halls, and there was a pulse check which was initiated. Survey was initiated immediately to really get the pulse from people. Wherever we see more help is required, so we went ahead. And then we created a digital app for our people as well. It was to really contact tracing, to really look at if people are traveling, so who they are meeting, so how we will address if somebody exposed to disease. So I think that was response it was quite comprehensive in next 3 to 4 months. Now it has become very regular BAU work for us. When I say BAU, business as usual, right? So people understand if they need help, how to get that help, and how to come and operate in their sites. So how we're looking at future, I think that's very important. We realize that future.
Rizwan Saab, yeah, if I can just take the liberty of just stopping you right here, we will move on to the future elements just in few minutes. Just let me, and I'll come back to you. Thanks for your response. So 3 C's, powerful, amazing the way your company has handled. I'll just stop you here and move to few other panelists, and then we'll come back to you. So thank you, Rizwan Saab. So Fatma, so you work for Unilever, which is a consumer goods, lots of interesting brands from food to personal care and home care, etc. And in these, as I understand, in these organizations, it's imperative to balance out sometimes businesses as well as employee needs, but it is on the same end extremely difficult. And in these unprecedented times, what I would like you to ponder upon is on 2 things. How have you actually created that balance between business needs and employee needs on one hand, and then how have you been able to create, or Unilever has been able to create value and be more choiceful in the work they did in these challenging times? Fatma.
Okay. Thank you so much, Rizwan. Sorry, Mohsen, I hope I'm audible by all. Just a thumbs up would be okay. Can you hear me? Okay. I think, if you speak to any organization today, they will say that during these times, the biggest priority that they've had on their mind is managing people. Single-minded proposition. Yeah. And everyone has put people ahead of business in all circumstances. And I think Unilever as an organization did no differently to exactly what my former speaker was talking about, similar steps on that. I'm going to spend a bit of time, in fact, talking about easement, and now talking about, as we are talking also about returning to our workplace. So previously it was working from home, now it's returning to workplace, and we call it in Unilever easement. What are some of the considerations that we need to keep in mind, and why is it very important, and how are we really balancing people, business and well-being? I think that's a critical element. So needless to say, I think, now that easement is happening, lockdowns are coming down, we are trying to go back to some sense of normality, or some people call it new normal, some people call it next normal, we still cannot keep away the whole people element aside. Yeah. And I think while we are a bit eager to go back to being, into the space of physical connectivity, and of course, it's got its advantages in terms of the culture, in terms of the creativity that it brings in terms of the collaboration that happens, the productivity impacts on it, and how it impacts really business on a financial sense. I think we need to keep in mind how to manage the whole people and the well-being element key in our minds. And why do I say that? Because I think the people who went home and started working from home in March, same people returning to the workplace. And what is different? Different is that some people are grieving. Yeah, some people have lost their loved ones. Some people have really faced COVID very, very closely and are deeply impacted on it. There are a lot of fear elements going on in people's mind because they've got vulnerable parents at home. A lot of people are child caregivers, and they are worried about what do they do when they come back to work. So I think as organizations, for us, what is extremely critical is that we keep these key employee preferences in our mind and see how do we balance the business and the people element. Because like I said, people priority will continue to be number one because COVID has not gone away. And we've seen that people have a lot of fear of a second phase, etc., happening. So it will continue to be top of our mind till we, really have a vaccine for this. So in order to make sure that we balance the easement process and make sure we keep business in the center stage, what Unilever has done is we've come up with a very extensive easement protocol, which talks about first looking at a gating criteria to manage and look at external parameters, internal parameters in terms of health, in terms of government statistics to make sure whether it is safe to get people back to work. When we get people back to work, and as a country, we may have moved to tier 3 or even tier 2 according to WHO definitions. But at our workplace, we make sure that we continue to implement tier 4 safety and protocols, yeah, to make sure that we are on the negligent about the protocol that we bring. So very strong protocols in terms of safety, etc. How do we make sure that our buildings, our HVAC, our systems, our protocols are all number one? How do we make things contactless? How do we do health screenings? How do we have return to work apps to make sure that we are tracking people's health? How do we come up with applications where if you come into contact with someone with 6 feet distance, there's a buzzer that rings on your phone and there is an automatic contact tracing that is done to make sure that that is there. And employee preference has been given center stage. So anyone, of course, who is got a vulnerable parent at home, anyone who's got children who need daycare facilities, anyone who has children who is doing homeschooling or not keeping good health themselves is definitely not allowed to come into work. All this coupled with a lot of conversation around well-being, well-being champions, well-being support at workplace, and overdose of communication is what is allowing us to really balance the easement phase and make sure that we bring business and people impact foremost in our mind. So I'll stop there because I know I've overextended my 2.5 minutes. Maybe I can take the second question in the second round.
Okay, great. Thank you, Fatma. It's very good to heartening to listen to easement and a lot of other employee well-being initiatives. I feel that actually put back that energy and zeal into your employees to actually work wholeheartedly and deliver whatever is the organization expecting back from them. So thanks for your thoughts. Moving on to Vikas, who is from British American Tobacco. And Vikas, my question to you would be that how in these challenging times you have been actually able to crack that commercial value and motivation in employees and leveraging technology at the same time. I heard a lot of good stories about your organization dwelling into these 3 areas in these unprecedented times. So would like to hear from you, your thoughts on these things. Over to you,
Thank you very much,
Vikas.
Mohsen. I hope you can hear me well.
Yeah, great,
Perfect.
loud and clear. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Rizwan and Fatima, for setting the context. I think you've made my job easier. So I'm probably just going to restrict myself to how we managed to turn this crisis into an opportunity for PTC. I want to start off with a very small point around scale and complexity. And I think both Rizwan and Fatma would probably be able to relate to it, that bigger the scale and magnitude, the higher the level of complexity and the higher the level of difficulty in embedding the change across a very big, well-oiled machine, which is working very well in normal circumstances. And that's exactly what stuck us as PTC. We have 3,000 people out there in the 2 factories producing millions of sticks every day. We have 3,000 feet on the streets selling to about 500,000 retailers out there. Great business, market share is fine. And then suddenly one fine morning you're hit by COVID and you have no clue how you're going to produce in a factory with a 6 feet distance with as less as 15 to 20 people on a line. We had no clue how are you going to sell out there in the market with 40% of your retail outlets closed. Yeah, you had no clue how long this is going to last, and is this something that we have to deal with for the next couple of weeks or months or years. Yeah, so a lot of huge stakes and a lot of complexity to deal with. If we could move to the next slide, I'm just going to take you through very quickly what are some of the things that we have been doing. So while this was a crisis, I think the light side of this crisis is that this gave us a lot of space and time to think and lead. Yeah. Now in these are unprecedented times, and obviously, in these circumstances, it is very important to get the team together. It is very important to get innovative ideas from people, and trust me, we're not one of those businesses which is very high on innovation. I can probably relate that more with Unilever or Engro, but we're in a very traditional business where innovation has a very limited role. How do you, and then the softer elements around empathy and communication and the execution in the market. So there are 3 big heads that we worked on. I think we call these the enablers. And obviously we start with technology and connectivity, which to me is the easier part. This is your hardware, which you can buy, which you can create, and which you can set up. And here you're talking of new ways of selling, home delivery system, or, going on the back of already established channels and platforms like Daraz and so on and so forth, setting up your own e-commerce business. But where the real challenge came in, and what I call the test of leadership, is how do you lead the team in these times? So how frequently do you appreciate, and that too virtually? How comfortable are you to express your vulnerability and give the impression to the team that we are in it together? It had been an extremely emotional journey for us, Mohsen. We had our factories closed down, if I'm not wrong, probably about 4 or 5 times. We've lost people. We've come across emotional situations where our employees lost their loved ones. There was a lot of pessimism and confusion, I would say, and that's where the duty of care and empathy becomes extremely important. Our narrative to the organization was that your safety is of prime importance. We are willing to give up any amount of business, but we're not going to compromise on your safety. If we have to stay home and produce nothing and sell nothing for 1 year, we are willing to do that, but we will not compromise on your safety. So that was one big commitment. I think the second big commitment is exactly what Rizwan was alluding to. A bit of a sense of security that we're not going to lay off people. And that honestly put a lot of people at ease. And then obviously helped creating a bit of optimism. This was, to my surprise, honestly, in 6 months, I think we connected with 6,000 people about 15 or 18 times. Usually you do the employee connect sessions once a month. So extensive communication, giving the team a bit of a comfort, and that is what helped us deliver some outstanding results in half 1, despite all the challenges.
Great, Vakas. So it's heartening to listen to you that complexity, scale, empathy, and a lot of good efforts has actually gone behind in putting these results, I'm sure. So hats off to you and your team. So now what I would like all of us to dwell on to, and whoever is attending, who are our esteemed audiences also, it's your time. If you look at here in the screen, you will look that there is a chat box here, and now you can put you have listened to various numerous perspectives from three esteemed panelists. It's time for you audiences now put up your perspective, comments, things which you feel have kept you motivated, bothered you, do you think can further be improved, and just write, just start writing, and then we will move on to take certain more comments. And panelists, while people are writing, I am sure that you will be able to see the comments box. If you can also look at them, and after this I will give you a shout, and you can pick up some of the important vital comments which you feel are very essential or beneficial for whoever is listening to it, and can then give your further comments on it. But let's take a 2 minute for the audiences to write their perspective. Audiences, please shoot.
Mohsen, there are already some very interesting questions in the box. So maybe we can start by answering some of those.
Yeah, Fatma, I think pick up one. Yes, while people are writing, yes, pick one comment which you have loved the most. Over to you, Fatma.
Yeah, so I'll pick up the one where people are asking whether, continuing to work from home is really going to be a part of the new normal. And is there really a need to look at this option, considering that there is considerable saving around cost, etc. So I'll pick up that one. I think that's a great point. And I think when we do a bit of a future gazing, the trends that are coming up is that talent is now not really going to be restricted around headquarters, but will definitely be more virtual. And what organizations are broadly talking about is virtual hybrid models. That means some people will come into workplace and some people will continue to work from home, because there are some very definite benefits around higher productivity sometimes for around a lot of saving, commute, etc. that is there. I think the only comment over here is that we need to balance this out along with the benefits of people connectivity, social cohesion, shared purpose, place, and what impact does this really have on the tenets of forming culture within an organization. So yes, we will be definitely seeing more hybrid models, and this is coming out of the reasons like the audience has mentioned. It is coming out of cost saving, it is coming out of better productivity, it is coming out of the fact that now we've got proven statistics to see you can work from anywhere and still continue to work. And it also throws us some brilliant opportunities, because I think we are not restricted in terms of sourcing talent. Yeah, look at the session today. Yeah, we've got people joining from different parts of the world. So the whole opportunity of working hybrid has allowed us to access talent from different parts, from gig economies, from wherever they are best suited to the organization. And also, I think learning has become a clear leveler for a lot of organizations because of ease of access. So virtual hybrid models is something that organizations will see more of. And the biggest challenge over there will be how do we balance the culture of tenants, the tenants of culture, to make sure that people working from home and people working from office will feel equally engaged, equally empowered, and equally committed to the shared purpose of the organization.
So, Mohsen, I'll pick something from the questions as well. I think we don't have a lot of time, so I'll see that how I try and sum it up in a couple of minutes. So it's basically reskilling for future, right? So reskilling for new normal. So what are those things, right? So what we did, we relooked at our leadership competence model, right? So we picked certain things from that model. where how to handle ambiguity, right? So for future, what are the skills required for people to really stay at work, right? Critical thinking. If I sum it up, I think there are 4 or 5 things which people really need to see, right? So how to handle crisis, creativity, entrepreneurial decision making, right? Emotional intelligence. So these things become important for our leaders in future. So we're putting a lot of emphasis in our in our future focus, right? So how to handle these things. Then on the digital side, there's more investment from our side. We're looking at how we use AI for better decision making for our businesses. How we create internal marketplace where we break the work and we create agility in the organization. So 3-4 people can do the same work. So gigs, gig economy or gig workers in our organization, right? So we're looking at all different options to really see that how we are ready for future. So I say future has come to present, right? Because the things we were to do in next 2 to 3 years, we have to start doing it today, right? So agility in the organization, flexible working, thinking differently. I think that's really required in the in today's normal. So let's stop here. If there are more questions around it, I think we can get a little more insight.
Yeah, I'll probably pick a very difficult one, which I will not be able to answer honestly, but I'll give it a shot. You know, there's a bit of a trend that I see around, you know, how does this impact my job security? How does this impact my remuneration going forward? And how does this impact my development in the new world? So look, as I said, I don't have an answer to this offhand, because this is really going to depend on how well your organization or your business is able to sort of draw the line between the commercial aspects and the emotional aspects of people well-being. So I know it is a very thin line and it is a very debatable area, but at the end of the day, we are in a company because we deliver commercial results. Yeah, there are very few companies out there which would survive without any commercial aspects. But look, in my humble view, I think the world has completely changed and it will continue to evolve. We've not had any face-to-face classroom training for last 7 months now, or 8 months, and we won't have that for the next 6 months either. So the role of digital learning becomes very big, and one of the aspects of digital learning is that the onus of development lies completely on you. You can actually sort of log on and then go to sleep and nothing will happen, or you could, you know, actually get a lot of value out of a digital learning intervention. Reward and remuneration, I think we all understand this is market driven. Obviously performance has some element in terms of differentiation, but we all know the direction in which the market is moving in terms of annual salary increases. So this is something beyond your control, to be fair. So I would not worry too much about that. Job security, last point. I think it is important that you skill yourself up to make yourself relevant to the market and functions within your existing employer, because it is a threat. Nobody can, you know, put up their hand and say that, look, if this continues for the next 5 years, there are going to be no job losses. These are uncertain times, these are unprecedented times, and we have to be prepared for all eventualities. And that's obviously my personal view on this.
Right. Mohsen, if it is okay, I'd like to pick up one of the questions which has been posted. I think it's a very interesting one, that which initiatives are going to be successful in, you know, helping us increase employee effectiveness and business delivery in this situation. I think, and it also kind of connects to the question you had asked me earlier. I think clearly, you know, they say that whenever the ground is shifting, it is important that we balance speed, cost, and resilience to the best way possible, that we can impact business delivery in a positive sense. And I always believe that we can get results, and I think this is an opportunity to bring both together. I think as businesses and as professionals and leaders, we need to pivot towards real things which will give us real-time value and growth without causing zero job loss. And I think that should be a mantra, and that will help both business as well as people in the positive direction. In Unilever, this is something that we have done very, very well. We've used the agile way of thinking to identify priorities which are going to be key for the organization in terms of value addition. And then we have moved our resources towards those priorities, because you have to be mindful of your choices at this point in time. Cost is a key consideration. Cash is a key element coming into play. So how do we rebalance our rhythm and our resources to make sure that the allocation is pragmatic and it is giving us maximum value for the business is very, very important. So at times we need to shelve things, at times we need to start and accelerate the pace of implementation on certain projects. So as leaders, please reprioritize, rethink what you're doing, and channel your resources accordingly. And why do I say agile methodology is a great way to do it? It allows you to identify value projects which are going to really help the organization. Secondly, if you don't have the resources, it allows you to set up scrum teams, etc., where you can put in a rhythm to result in delivery. And then what you can work towards is a minimal viable product that you deliver. So you don't have to aim for perfection. You get to perfection in steps, but you have a process in place where you keep on experimenting and make sure that you come up with a product which is perfected, and hence that minimum viable product, the minute it is perfected, will result in huge value. To reprioritize what is there as a business requirement, strategic delivery based on the value it's going to give you, and then resource it the way you want to, keeping in mind your cost and people considerations. And if the business grows, people grow, and when they work on meaningful things, people find more value, they find more purpose. We are very big about working on purposeful items in Unilever, and we've seen that productivity doesn't drop. So those are just some of the suggestions.
So thanks a lot, Fatma. I think these are a lot valuable comments, and we can go on and on. There is so much to learn from all of you, listen, get practices from you, but time is definitely of the essence today. There are a lot of great panelists and speakers following us. So I will just stop here. What I have heard from all of you are these key things which we all can take away. And these are that if we create balance, focus, so what we can do is that focus create value. We should keep our eyes and ears closer to our employees, create that magic in them through filling them with well-being initiative, safety initiative, having putting their back trust on them, and leveraging technology and digital change to our advantage also. And if we do this and coupled with a lot of other things, some of the very nice comments the audiences have also put in, I think that as we have come a long way, we will definitely do that magic and create that future which we all deserve as being human and as being human resource professionals. So thank you all for a very active participation. A very good luck to you for your future. Stay safe. Allah Hafiz, Pakistan Zindabad. And now what I would like to do after this panel discussion is over is to move towards a very good video of Shell, which they have also put together for the audiences to showcase what they have done in these challenging and turbulent times. So let's play that video, enjoy, and take the learnings forward.